Everybody, welcome to the Bay Area Content Marketing Meetup. Today's guest, Michelle. I've connected with Michelle for years on Twitter. Had a great, great time meeting her in Cleveland last year at Content Marketing World. Michelle is a writer, consultant, and principal at Garrett Public Relations. I know some of you on the line are freelancers, so Michelle hosts a weekly Twitter chat. The hashtag is freelance chat. It's Thursdays at noon Eastern.
Yep.
And without further ado, take it away, Michelle.
Well, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me, Dennis. And I'm going to turn off my video and I'm going to share my screen so we can see. How does this look? Okay, there we go. Is that good?
That looks good.
Okay. So we're talking today about public relations, one of my favorite topics, of course, and we're talking about how you can better integrate it with content. Of course, these two work really well together, and we're just going to talk a little bit about ways you might be able to enhance both by kind of incorporating them a little bit more closely together. So with that, I will kind of jump right in, and I will have time at the end for questions. So, feel free if you have questions to type them into the chat, and we will try to get to those at the end. So I always like to start with a definition because I think a lot of people have their own ideas about what PR is and what it is not. And this definition is from the Public Relations Society of America. It's public relations is a strategic communication process that builds mutually beneficial relationships between organizations and their publics. And I think there are a couple of key words in here that I'd like to kind of talk about for just a minute. One is strategic. There should be a strategy behind your PR efforts. There should be a reason why you're doing what you're doing and a goal. And that's important because, we don't want to just be throwing things out there to see what sticks. We really want to understand why we're doing this. Because I think to a lot of, at least small business owners and executives and things, it's kind of a vanity thing sometimes for them. And really there should be more of a strategy behind it. And that's why it's important to ask the questions, why do you want to do this? What do you hope to accomplish? I think that's important. And then relationships would be the other word that I want to kind of key in on there, because I think PR pros are very skilled at building relationships. And we know that these relationships can benefit us in a lot of different ways. And of course, content marketers are also into influencer marketing, and that's about relationships. And so we'll talk a little bit about that as we go along here. I also want to touch on why PR is so important today. Trust is down across the board. People want to trust the brands they buy from. They want to trust their government. They want to trust the media, but few of them really do. And I think that PR can help with this because people just, they really want the truth. They want transparency. They want to know, they don't really want to have to find out later that you didn't tell them the truth the first time around. So I think the truth has never been more important, and PR can help organizations with this if they include their PR team in the decisions and crafting the messages. They should really have a seat at the table with the executives. I mean, right now we're, of course, in the midst of a crisis, and PR can bring so much to that discussion, and they can really help you along the way to deliver the messages that your stakeholders and your audiences need to hear. Visibility helps increase trust. And so if customers can see you and get to know you, that will help them trust you. And building a credible reputation is something that really matters along the way. It's not something that you can just do overnight. It's something that PR can help you do and help you pay attention to really at all times. Why does credibility matter? So, of course, there comes a time when you need people to believe what you're saying. And if you haven't worked on building a credible reputation along the way, that probably won't happen. So banks, I'm going to use as an example, look at Wells Fargo. Of course, they've had a number of missteps. And of course, they want to be a trustworthy, a credible organization, but for many reasons, they are not. And so they've really damaged their credibility. And when they need people to really pay attention and believe in them, they're not really going to have that kind of relationship with their stakeholders. And of course, in some situations, when you need people to trust you, it's for your health and safety. And so we know that building credibility along the way is so important. Then Stephen Covey talks about the speed of trust. And when you have credibility, it helps increase the trust that you have with another person, with a customer, with an employee. When they trust you, they are more likely to feel more comfortable working with you, and it's going to be a more productive relationship versus if they're just constantly trying to figure out where you stand, if you are telling the truth, if you are credible. So it is actually a positive difference maker. And we know that a credible reputation pays off, and it's something that you should continually be working on. It will be there for you in good times and in bad. You should not wait until you need it to build it, of course. It's something that I feel that a lot of organizations don't think about until they're kind of in the thick of a crisis. And then they really wish that maybe they had focused on their reputation along the way a little bit more closely. The bottom line is that people buy from brands they trust. And with that, then we want to talk a little bit more about the integration of PR and content and how can we use these two better together to increase trust, increase sales, increase visibility, and all of that. I wanted to share this slide because I think a lot of times people see PR as just press releases and media relations, and it's really a lot more than that. These are just some of the roles that PR can play within an organization. And of course, some of these roles are roles that content marketers will also hold within an organization, and there is some overlap there. And so I think it's just important to recognize that PR can bring a lot to the table, and that you want to be thinking about, how they can enhance what you're doing and how you can factor them into the mix. How can you weave PR into your content efforts? There are a number of ways to do this. I'm just going to give some examples. Of course, influencer outreach. PR pros are skilled at working with journalists and industry analysts, for example, and those are, of course, influential people out in the industry. And so they have a lot of experience in this area. And I think for content marketers, they can leverage their PR team's experience with influencers, because I think anytime you can factor in influencers into what you're doing in a credible way, I think it can really help you get a lot more mileage out of your content. Thought leadership is, of course, something that both PR pros and content marketers are striving for to help the organizations with. A lot of what PR does is, help position executives as thought leaders in the industry through speaking engagements, through contributed articles, and so forth. And so, of course, this benefits both the PR and the content team. And of course, social media, you cannot do any of these three without the other. I think that they won't be as successful, and they really need to be very closely integrated. I know a lot of organizations tend to silo them, and I really am trying to help get the word out there that they need to work closer together, and they really just need to be a team and to be working together and kind of almost in lockstep so that they can leverage what each other's doing. More ways to weave PR into your content efforts. Of course, the press release. You can start with the press release and link to the content, or you can start with the content and then maybe the press release comes out of that. So it works both ways. Of course, you can bring more visibility to content by linking to it and by highlighting it. And you can always, once you have a press release, you can always turn that into some content. Maybe that'll spark an idea for a video or a blog post or something like that. You can leverage your blog posts for earned media. Sometimes you can post something on your blog and then say you want to pitch that story idea as a contributed article to a publication. You can get even more mileage out of it that way. Earned media articles, PR can reference those and help create links to those, to your content through earned media, which is an integral part of what PR pros do. And then speaking engagements, of course, we do help position executives as thought leaders, and part of that is speaking. And so sometimes you can take a speaking topic and turn it into a series of articles, which can flow right into what you're doing to promote that particular event that the executive might be speaking at. And those are just a few examples. I wanted to also mention that part of PR is really making it easy for journalists to cover you, to write about your company. And so don't hide your PR. Make sure that you have a dedicated area on your website for it. It's really frustrating for journalists to have to go out and hunt around for what they need. A lot of times now they're very busy and they just want to grab it and go. And so you can use this area to include things that they might need, like logos and headshots, maybe videos, of course, your press releases, your any articles that feature your brand, any awards that you've won, upcoming speaking engagements, everything and anything related to PR could be kept in this area. And of course, this is another way to showcase your content. I wanted to dedicate a slide to contributed articles because I feel that this is an area that's really underutilized. And I feel like it's a great way to accomplish several objectives that meet both PR and content objectives. Thought leadership, of course, it helps build your reputation, build your credibility. You can share your expertise, which can help attract buyers. You can increase your visibility. And of course, it can lead to even more opportunities. It can snowball and lead into other things, opportunities to speak, opportunities to write articles, to be quoted, and so forth. So a lot of times, the process for this can be as simple as coming up with some ideas and looking at some industry vertical publications that accept contributed articles, and then just pitching those articles, and then, you know, writing the content. And of course, if you can't write the content yourself, you can always hire a ghostwriter to help you create that content. But it's yet another way to leverage PR and create content that you can share on social media, and you can plug it into a number of things that you're doing in your marketing program. So what happens if you have a story idea and you can't get the media to cover it? Well, of course, we have self-publishing, and we can publish it on our blog, we can publish it on LinkedIn, publish on Medium. There are a number of things you can do if you can't get the media to write the story, and self-publishing is a great tool for us to use, because it used to be that we had to rely on the media, and now we really can do it ourselves, and we can still get it out there. And sometimes it will still end up being picked up by the media. It's just that when you pitched it, for whatever reason, the timing was off, or they weren't interested, or what have you. So this is always worth doing if you have a good idea for a story and you can write it yourself and post it. And of course, you should always share every piece of content on social. So of course, we should repurpose our content. I'm a big believer in this. These are just a few examples. And of course, you can repurpose one piece of content in multiple ways. I wrote an article about podcast content and live streaming, because there's so much of that now. And there are a number of different ways you can repurpose that. You can go from a podcast to a blog post. You can pull snippets out to share on social media. You can roll some ideas out of that and turn them into maybe a series of posts, or you could even turn it into a video. And so there's just a lot you can do. And I think you should always be thinking about, what else can I do with this? Because, there's just a number of ways you can always reuse your content. And once you have it, why not repurpose it as much as you possibly can? We can talk for a few minutes about tools because I love tools, as probably everybody does, and these are some of my favorites. Buffer is my favorite social media scheduling tool. It's very cost effective if you have a small business or you are working with small business clients. I think I spend about $100 a year on my Buffer account, and I have all of my social media and a client or two on there with me. And it's so handy. I can set it up for times when I'm not at the keyboard. I do spend a lot of time on Twitter, for example, live, but then you can set it up for nighttime or weekends or times when you might not be in front of the computer. So that's very valuable. Pablo by Buffer doesn't get a lot of attention. I think a lot of people use Canva. Pablo is 100% free. You don't have to use Buffer to take advantage of Pablo, and it's very easy and quick to pull images. It pulls from Unsplash and Pixabay, which are two of the more popular places to get your photos. And then you can add text to them if you want, and it's very easy and fast. Grammarly for writing. Of course, you know, a human editor is best, but if you don't have one, or sometimes even if you do, Grammarly is great because it follows you on email, it follows you on social media. It's like your writing assistant. And sometimes when you're writing really fast on email or social media, for example, you might make mistakes that you wouldn't even catch, and you hit send and it's off. So Grammarly can be really helpful in that way. I love MailChimp. I have a free newsletter, and you know, there's plenty of, since you've generated all the content, why not have a newsletter for your followers and allow people to opt in, of course, to your list, and start building your list even before you have the newsletter. That's another little tip that I sometimes will talk about. But I think MailChimp's very easy to use. You can replicate your campaigns, you can measure and see how you're doing, who opened it, and all of that. Google Analytics, you can see where your traffic's coming from. For example, you may think, you know, Twitter's driving a lot of your traffic, and you may look at Google Analytics and find out that Facebook was driving more traffic than you thought, or that a particular article was performing better than you thought. So another great free tool. Word Hippo is a synonym finder. It's a little bit more thorough than just going into the thesaurus. And I do a lot of writing, and so sometimes I'm just trying to find a different way to say it. And right now, of course, we all need a different way to say unprecedented, uncertain. Word Hippo can really help you there. So I have both TalkWalker and Google Alerts set up for my business and my clients' businesses. TalkWalker tends to catch a few things that Google Alerts might not catch, especially on social media. And so they are free, and why not? So that's always my thinking there. For press releases, this comes up a lot too. Wire services are very confusing to a lot of people. A wire service just helps you get the press release out. That doesn't mean that you still shouldn't pitch it personally to reporters that you would like to cover it, that you think would be a good fit for your news. PR Web is a very cost-effective way to get your press release on a wire if you choose to go that way. There are a number of other ones. Of course, PR Newswire, Business Wire, those are more expensive. And in this case, Cision owns both PR Web and PR Newswire. So if you're just kind of dabbling with a wire service, PR Web is a little bit more cost effective. They allow you to include an image. It's $289 at the one level that we often use, and it allows links, and it will still get you out there, and it will kind of cover your bases. I see it as an additional way to get the word out in addition to pitching your news. Muckrack, they have a free tool called Who Shared My Link, so you can see who's sharing your stories, who's sharing your articles. And they also have a free portfolio. If you do a lot of contributed article writing or blogging, it will tend to compile those things for you. And you can also add articles that it doesn't catch if you need to do that. Then there are PR databases if you want to build media lists. One is Meltwater. It is not free. If you need a free way to build a media list, of course, you can always do it by hand because all of the publications have contact information on their websites. But Mondo Times is a alternative to a media database, and it is free. I believe they sell paid lists, but to use it, to just go to their site and use it, it's free. And especially if you are trying to build a list for a particular city, say you want to see all the newspapers, radio, TV stations in Albuquerque or something like that, you can go on there and pull all of that very easily, and it will save you a little bit of time. So as we kind of wrap up, I just want to talk about for a minute that as with many things in marketing and content marketing, PR takes time. It's not something that, you do today and you're done tomorrow. I've heard people say things like, well, we tried a press release and it didn't really work out, nothing happened. That's not really giving it a fair shot. One press release or one round of media pitching probably will not do the job. I know people talk about going viral, and we in PR wish that phrase would just go away, because I'm sure that it maybe can happen, but certainly do not put your eggs in the we're going to go viral basket. Kind of keep in mind that it's the long game, and you want to be thinking long term about this and be consistent about it. As you try to integrate PR and content, be sure to include your PR and content folks in the meetings, and have them give input on the communication and how they might play a role in that. And of course, they can both leverage each other. And so the more they work together, hopefully the more that will just become obvious and apparent, and that everybody will just be on board with that. So as we end here, this is one of my mantras, is keep showing up. And even if it feels like no one is paying attention or it's just taking a long time, please hang in there. Please keep trying. Please keep experimenting. And that's it.
So, thanks so much, Michelle.
Yeah.
I am checking the chat. I'll pull up a couple of questions that have come in.
Okay.
The first one is from Caroline. Earlier, you talked about taking a blog post and pitching the story to media. So Caroline asks, do you want to speak it, Caroline? She asks, let me go back to it. Sorry, another chat came in and I lost my spot. Oh, can you talk about how much you would change a blog post you're pitching to get earned media?
Oh, well, I mean, I would maybe use the blog post as an idea to write a pitch. I might not just pitch, I might not put maybe I would put the cut and paste the blog post in the pitch, but I would certainly pull out a few key points. When you're pitching, I think it's really important to kind of cut to the chase. You can use a few bulleted points. If you have statistics or data, reporters really seem to respond well to that. If you have a survey or something, you can share. But yeah, I mean, you could pitch it as is, but you would always want to put a cover pitch, a cover note, cover letter, whatever you want to call it, on there, so that you're not just maybe blasting it out as is.
Yeah, I guess because, you wouldn't want to have the same content on multiple places, because Google doesn't like that, right? So that's...
Well, I mean, but if you get people to cover it and they write their own stories about it.
Yeah, but not the same content, right?
No, I mean, I think it's possible to, for example, if you publish an article, if you're contributing to a publication, to a site, and then you want to repurpose, some sites will let you do that. And I think that's perfectly legit. I mean, I think that's okay.
Okay, thank you.
So we have a question from Tony. How do you measure success in PR? And if you're using a PR agency, how do you know if they're doing their job well?
Well, that's not a loaded question, is it? No, I mean, this is a question that comes up a lot. I mean, of course, we all want to measure and provide, results. We want to be able to measure our results. And I think it's easier now when you have specific URLs and things. You can see what's driving traffic, and you can see, which articles are most popular. For example, if you put a press release out and you put a link in it, you can create a bit.ly or something to track the results and see, how that's doing, how that's performing. As far as your agency, I worked at an agency before I started my consulting business, and a lot of times, I'm not saying, there are a lot of good agencies, but a lot of agencies will send in, of course, the big wigs to pitch the business, and then you get somebody that's pretty fresh out of college to do the actual work. And so, I would want to know that. I would ask those questions before going into that relationship. Who's going to be doing your day-to-day, work on the account? I don't know if that answers it.
Okay, another question has come in from Esther. How can I try to pitch and get PR coverage for my marketing platform from another country? She's based in Italy and wants to get coverage in the US.
Okay. Well, of course, it'd be helpful to have a PR person in the US who knew the publications that you might want to be, pitching it to. There are databases that you can use and build your own list. And if you can do that yourself as well, and of course you can do it all online and just do your own research. And, hopefully you have an idea of what industry, you want to pitch, and just do a search and see, what publications or what sites you want to pursue to get coverage.
Excellent. From Sandra, how do you help clients understand that publications look for newsworthy content rather than everyday information?
Yeah, well, it's hard because they have their own ideas, right, about what they think is newsworthy. It's really interesting because sometimes they will hire a PR pro, and then they really don't want to listen to your advice. So, the best you can do is give them your thoughts, and then a lot of times, if they don't respect your opinion, sometimes it isn't working out or whatever. It's really hard, I think, if you want to maintain your credibility as a PR professional, if you're pitching a lot of stuff that isn't really newsworthy. Journalists are going to start to recognize that, and it's probably going to hurt your reputation, your own reputation. So, I don't know. That's a tough question to answer.
Hey, Dennis, can I just give a little tip real quick?
Sure thing.
Yeah, so you haven't mentioned help a reporter out, which is one of my favorite things ever, which is they send an email blast 3 times a day, and it's reporters who are looking for sources on stories. So that's a great way because you already know what they're looking for. And I have had some success. I have a large feature in a magazine actually in June. I just launched a business, and what really made it successful was that it was very specific to what he was asking for. It was about like crisis marketing. And I had just written a very long, lengthy blog post about that and included that. And so it made it very, very easy. So like I said, it comes out 3 times a day. So you can choose to respond to what you want and what you don't want to. So.
I'll just add a note though, do be careful because it's gone down in quality. In my opinion, it's been around for a number of years. Peter Shankman started it, and then of course Cision owns it now, I believe. But a lot of the requests on there are anonymous, and you have no idea. I think some of them are phishing for their own benefit, and maybe have no intention at all of using what you send them in an article. They just want to get examples of your work so that they can use it. I've actually seen that too. So, it can be helpful. And of course, I think a lot of PR people do use it, and a lot of businesses can use it too, but just look at it with some caution when you're evaluating the opportunities.
That's good to know. I didn't know that. I don't think I've responded to any that are anonymous, but that's really good info because I didn't know that.
Yeah. Unfortunate.
So the anonymous scenario, Michelle, they're wanting you to submit your contribution to an anonymous source?
Right.
You have to do all the work?
It could be Associated Press or the New York Times. It could be, but you don't know. And usually you can kind of read between the lines a little bit. I just see some that look kind of fishy, and I've had other people tell me, I'm not the only one that has said this out loud before. I've seen people talking about it. I know a lot of people love it, but it could be one part of your strategy. Let's put it that way. I definitely wouldn't count on it for everything. The relationship building, getting to know the pubs in the industry that you play in, that's very important. And of course that relationship building means following them, sharing their stuff, trying to, kind of talk to them about things that have nothing to do with what you want to pitch them, just kind of having conversations, just building relationships. That's the only way to say it, really.
And one thing about help a reporter out is I think a lot of the questions are just pure market research. But,
yeah.
they'll throw out a question and be like, let's try to get some answers to this. And it's not going to go anywhere. Maybe it'll show up in a blog post down the line or something, maybe.
Yeah.
A lot of it is just pure market research. Let's get some input on this. And it's a quick and free way to try to do that.
And you really, you almost have to keep, it could take you could make that a full-time job, just replying to Haro requests. And like for every 10 you submit, maybe you'll get one, hit. And if it's a good hit, it's worth it. But, I have clients that get frustrated because we spend time putting together responses and they don't see a lot of return, because the people on there also get inundated with responses. And so the earlier you can get in there, like as soon as you get it, if you can respond right away, I think that helps your chances. And there are course articles about how to be successful using Haro, and there's a lot of that out there too. So.
All right, we have a question from Lori K. Lori K attended our very first meetup 5 years ago. Her question is, how do you handle the age-old conundrum that journalists don't like to be bugged, especially by off-topic requests?
Well, sorry to laugh. No, of course, they really, I just saw a stat though that I think it was 60-some% of journalists view their relationship with PR pros as positive. And that's a pretty decent, percentage. Sure, some of them are never going to like being pitched or whatever. I think there's a respectful way to do it. You shouldn't send 10 emails in one day to the same reporter. I have a reporter contact who says, wait at least 3 days before you follow up. It's okay to follow up. Sometimes you have your best success on the follow-up, but don't send them 5 emails the same day and call them and tweet at them. And, and that's another thing. If you try email and it doesn't work, maybe try DMing them. Some of them have open DMs on Twitter, and a lot of them spend a lot of time over there. And that can also work. I've had that be successful.
All right, there's a question from Rosemary about infographics. I just need to scroll up to it. So you listed that on one of your slides, Michelle, and Rosemary is saying that for her clients, she's not seeing many clicks on them anymore. She's wondering, oh, here we go. We're no longer seeing infographics getting clicks. Oh, go ahead, Rosemary.
Yeah, we're just seeing a huge drop off on engagement with infographics. Are you seeing anything differently for your clients?
No, I think that's just an example of something you can do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not an expert on infographics by any means, but I definitely, I see people still publishing them. And sometimes I read them and click on them, but I don't have anything scientific on that.
Oh, okay, thanks.
I think their infographics are following like the Gartner wave, so there might be the trough of disillusionment right now.
I think they just became so cheesy is the problem, right?
Yeah, it was like all the rage about 3-4 years ago, 5 years ago, 4 years ago. I was guilty of doing some.
I still see people doing them. I don't know. That'd be interesting. I'm sure if we ask on Twitter, we'd get a lot of people weighing in on it. So maybe we should do that.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I think it might be different between B2B and B2C, right?
Maybe.
It's also that quality versus quantity thing that comes in. A lot of infographics are not quality.
Yeah. I'd rather almost see an article with the data in it if it were me, but that seems more credible to me.
Well, it's not really either or thing. You can create an infographic that somebody could print out.
Yeah.
On an 8.5 by 11 sheet and put all the data in the blog post that contains the infographic.
Yeah.
It's true. But if the article bullets out those numbers, it can be equally effective and more credible too, like you were saying.
I think it's about storytelling through data, right? If you do a good job telling the story through with credible data, then it's a good piece.
Yeah.
Points, good points. And similarly, Amanda says, where was it? This chat is killing me. Infographics have evolved into data journalism, so similar to what Maureen just said.
Oh yeah, good point.
Hey Mo,
So-
are you in a co-working space?
Yeah,
You are?
it's actually my co-working space. So.
I know. I figured I'd give you a chance to pitch it.
Oh,
I
live
still
a
got to
long
get
way.
up there, but it might be a while.
It's a long way away from.
All right, Michelle, I saw a question from Sandra in the chat earlier. It's like a chicken and egg question. How do you develop relationships with the press if you don't currently have any relationships?
Well, you have to start somewhere. I mean, the best place I think to start is, I mean, you really need to be on Twitter if you're serious about PR. I also just saw somebody talking about this. I think it was Frank Strong talking about, because I noticed that sometimes too, agencies are not on Twitter, or PR pros that are not on, I go look them up and I'm like, well, where are they? They're not on Twitter. How can you be in PR and not be on Twitter? Because that's where the reporters hang out. So I think that's a great place to start. Like their posts, comment on their articles, share it with a comment, retweet it, just to get on their radar even. And maybe just, like maybe they're just talking about the weather, or, like you can have a little bit of an exchange. I've done that before. And then you kind of get to know each other a little bit before you ever really need to pitch them or want to ask them to do something for you. And that is always the mindset with which to approach it, is that you are asking them to do something for you. And you should always have that kind of an attitude about it. I see, reporters complain that PR people have an entitled tone sometimes, and they really do not owe us anything. I mean, hopefully you're pitching something that is of interest and that's a fit for their audience, but honestly, whether or not they respond to you, you can't have an attitude or get upset or anything like that.
So let's say you're interacting with a reporter on Twitter, maybe they're even replying back to you. How do you think about, do you think about taking it to the next step and sending them a LinkedIn connection request?
Sometimes, if you feel like you're at that level, and sometimes they'll accept it. I think once they open that up, then of course you can message them that way too, and that might be scary to them. So I'm always trying to be not threatening to them, like, okay, we're going to take this slow. It's kind of like dating. I mean, right? Like, I think I wrote about for PR Daily once how building relationships with reporters was like dating for Valentine's Day or something like that. So it's really a lot of common sense and just kind of, showing them love and, liking their stuff and really taking time to read their stuff. I think that helps more than anything else. And just like if you read an article and it resonates with you, share it and put a comment in there that shows that you read it. I think they do really look at that, especially if you at them, which you should do when you share anybody's article.
Right.
Yeah.
Maureen says, being a real person goes a long way.
Mm-hmm. They're people. They're busy people, but yeah.
All right. Anyone else have questions, comments? Oh, I guess, Michelle, where can, I know you left your slide, had your contact info, but where can people go to find you?
Well, I am on Twitter at PR is us. That's probably a good place to find me. And I have my website is michellegarrett.com. My newsletter, there should be a pop-up form there to subscribe. It's free once a month. I do not spam people with email every day or anything like that. So yeah, those are probably a few of the best ways.
Excellent. And I think I had some issues with my audio in the introduction. So tell us about your weekly Twitter chat.
It's called Freelance Chat. It's hashtag Freelance Chat. I will put it in the chat box here. It is open to anyone who works for themselves. So we say freelance, but it could be somebody self-employed, a consultant, solopreneur, whatever you call yourself. If you work for yourself, there's probably something for you. And yeah, it's at noon Eastern every Thursday. We have guests sometimes. We always have a topic. Once a month, we do open mic chats where you can ask questions, and we have freelancers of all, in all walks and levels of experience. So if you're new and you're looking for advice, we have a lot of seasoned folks that come. And if you've been around for a while doing it, you still might get something that you didn't think about as far as finding a new client or marketing your business or dealing with the crisis or whatever it might be.
Excellent. So everyone can join tomorrow, right? We're on for tomorrow.
Absolutely. And we have Kaylee is our guest tomorrow, and she's pretty popular on Twitter too, so she'll be a really good guest. She's going to talk to us about writing about yourself, which is really hard for those of us, even who write for clients, writing your about page, which even if you don't have a website, you still need to know how to write about yourself and present your business and all that. So I think she'll have some good tips on that. And it's a very supportive community, I would add too. We don't really get territorial in there. We're really supportive of each other, and it's just nice to kind of have other people that understand the challenges that you face as a freelancer. And yeah.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Michelle, for joining us today. Thanks everyone else for joining too. We'll see you on Twitter, Michelle, and some others of you. And everyone stay safe.
Bye. Thank you
so much.
Thank you.
Bye.